The station of the stars. RTI.
It sure is. It's RTI, Radio Tatras International, on your radio set. Because I can say that now, because there are actually radios that have nothing but the internet on them. So it is on your radio set where you will find us, broadcasting around the world. Thanks to Mark this morning in Australia for saying hello to RTI. What a nice man. Gosh. It is Eric here at the still snow-covered mountains, although it's a bit murky down here today. Not as warm as it was yesterday. We nearly did topless radio, but then we changed our minds because that would have included Leigh, and that would have been horrific. But there you go. You're pouring in on Facebook as we speak, and I'll say hello to everybody in a moment. But first of all, hello, Leigh.
Hello, how may I help you?
Contradiction in terms.
What is hello? I should be saying goodbye. Is that it? Am I finished?
No. You said, hello, how may I help you?
I said may, not my.
That's what I said.
Yeah, no, you didn't. You have a complete inability to talk this morning.
I know.
What were you doing last night, may I ask?
I was...
you were doing that amber nectar thing, were you?
No, I wasn't actually. I didn't touch a drop. That's the problem. That's the problem, isn't it? Apparently, I've got to turn him up a bit. I think that means you're quiet.
I'm quiet? That's never been known.
That's a first for everybody. I will tell you what I was doing later.
No, don't. It's boring.
No, it won't. It'll be really, because it's actually prompted today's question.
Rachel, it'll be boring. I know you're not supposed to be there yet, but it'll be boring.
I'm already asleep.
All right then, see, you put her to sleep already.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Hello, Rach.
Hello. Perth was the P you were looking for in Australia.
But you've got a Plymouth, haven't you?
Oh, probably, but Perth sounds more snappy, don't you think?
I do kind of agree with you. Yes, it is a little bit more oomphy.
Yeah.
Oomphy, is that a word?
Hello, Perth.
Hello, Perth.
Hello, Perth. I've been to Perth. I like Perth. Perth is
I better do some quick hellos because I'm never going to keep up with all this, otherwise it is going to do my little bouncing. Hello to David and to Mike. Paul Vass is there. Hannah is there. Steve Mann. We've got... Oh, that's nice to have. Ken's there from the military. Nice to have you with us, Ken. Steve Melrose, Owen Paul, Jeff, Jan Tribler from the TV channel Markisa here in Slovakia. Dobry den, Jan. Steve says, turn him up. No, I've done that bit already. I won't read out what Dave's just written because that will entice him to do it. So
Go on, then. Read it out. Go on. I dare you.
Really?
Dare you. See if I can do it.
Well, I've got two messages which concur. Now don't say a word yet, Leigh. Dave says, Leigh just wants a shameless plug, and Steve says he hasn't mentioned his website yet.
Does he mean the Consumer Watch Foundation?
Hello to Gina, to Wendy, who says, hi, Eric, hope you are well. I am very well, thanks, Wendy. How's Shillington doing? We shall be hopefully popping across there one day, not too long. Andrew John Teague is in the house, as is Andy Connor. Cliff, Richard is there, and Noreen, and we've now got an Alexa. We've got, how do you say that? Hasden, I think. Akram I can do. Hi, Akram. Yes, thank you. We are all very well over here. And Andrea Martin has just joined. Thank goodness she didn't join before. Otherwise, she'd have heard me making a complete fool of myself. My question, which is something of what I was doing last night, because I don't know if everybody knows this, but around the world, you can listen to the BBC Question Time programme. It's on BBC One television, but it's simulcast on the radio, which means expats all around the world can listen in. Now, a highly respected, I think it'd be fair to say, highly respected broadcaster?
It depends who it is.
Mr. Dimbleby.
Mr. Dimblebum, yes, he's actually very respected. Not respected for his ties, I might say.
Well, that possibly is true. So there I am, sitting on. I'm lounging on the sofa, as one does, and I nearly fell on the floor.
You'd be all right. You'd have bounced back up.
Thank you. Don't encourage him, Miss Brunsden. Don't encourage him.
I've seen that couch and I've seen your floor, and it would happen to him.
You have as well, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so there I am, nearly falling on the floor, as Mr. Dimbleby, David, said an expletive.
Oh, naughty Dimblebum.
He did. And then he said it again.
Oh, no. What did he say?
Then well, it's a word beginning with B,
Yeah.
and it rhymes with the boating term rollocks.
Oh,
Naughty David.
And then he read it out twice again as a quote from somebody who was on the panel.
Very, very interesting.
maybe it was a dare.
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to get fired.
Or maybe it was a dare, like, I'll pay you, $5 million if you say that word on the radio.
Or maybe he just bollocks it up.
No, you can't say it! For goodness sake.
Uncle Leigh.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, my
You
goodness.
cannot win, can you?
Do you know that word
Yes.
isn't actually a swear word?
Well, I know, but it's. I think the grin on David's face would have said it all, because you could hear it in his voice. He was almost giggling while he said it. And I think he was enjoying saying it as well. Because it's probably the first time he said an expletive on the BBC in his entire career. But my question is this. I mean, we're laughing about it. We have got that which is described and was described in its previous format as a laddish programme. And
Yeah, Rachel.
that's the style
right,
of it.
yes.
No,
Real
right.
good. Laddish, right.
Right, yeah.
She's a ladette. You're a ladette, aren't you?
Yeah, you're a ladette. Yeah, so it's all cool. Oh, right. Steve didn't like it when Piers was on the Question Time. Because he used another B word for illegitimate child. But anyway, my question is this. State broadcasters are supposed to be the higher echelons of broadcasting, the thing that you all aim at as the best thing. And a lot of times commercial radio, like us, is considered the tabloid element of broadcasting, i.e. we're toilet humour all the time. Got us toilet humour, never.
In other words, we're fun.
Never, ever, we're
Well, they are
fun.
not.
So I'd just like to throw this out for a topic a bit later on. Do you think it's right for broadcasters to use bad language when they are live on air?
Interesting thought.
Because I've never asked it before, and I thought it just struck me because when you hear David Dimbleby, who's I can't even impersonate him, he's too posh. When David Dimbleby says that B word, I go, ah!
Are we answering that now? Or
No,
later?
it's just food for thought for part two.
Food for thought, eh?
I've got a really strong answer for that too. I'll pack it away
And I am.
until.
Well,
And if it's food for thought, you
Yes.
should be in Celebrity Get Me Out of Here, because that's what they eat.
well, yeah, that's true. But the odd thing is, I was watching Slovak TV one day, and they were being rather nasty about the Miss Slovakia competition. And on the wall behind it was F that programme, and they wrote the full word.
Yeah.
FC UK, but done differently. And you think to yourself, hold on a minute. Surely kids, even in Slovakia, know what the word is before the watershed, and it's wrong. I am pleased to say, although I probably only listen to Slovak radio about 10 minutes a year, beforehand you would have the non-radio edits played here, and I don't know whether it's just to wind everybody up or not, because I actually don't know, but you'd have the F word and all sorts of other words that musicians have in their lyrics these days aired on FM radio, and that used to offend me. It really
Right.
did.
It offends me.
Yeah.
Rachel, he's discussing
Yes.
this all by himself.
No, I'm just
Yes,
I'm elevating the subject for part 2.
He's talked about it with all his friends that live inside his head all afternoon, and now he's talking to us about it.
Sorry, what did you say? Oh, left ear just said no, you shouldn't. Right ear's just saying why not. Oh my words! Clothing shop in the UK. Nice one, Steve. As in my spelling of the F word, he says what? They were advertising a clothing shop in the UK. No, Steve. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, we're going to get on with some news and other topics of embarrassment to the industry. And I will now have the reason I was talking before, boys and girls, is I now have a rest, you see. Because I won't get a word in edgeways now.
You should be arrested.
Because the two lovies will now talk. No, I'll be kind. They will discuss the sad passing of people this week, starting, Rachel, with Bradford Dillman.
Glad you said that name right.
I did.
Who, Rachel? Yeah, me too. That would have just been embarrassing, wouldn't it?
Just quickly, hello to Paul Newman and Stuart Busby.
Is he there now, Paul Newman?
Yeah, he's there. He's there. By the way, we've got some information from David. Ofcom says B, as in Rollocks, is medium language, potentially unacceptable, pre-watershed, not generally offensive, but somewhat. Vulgar when used to refer to testicles, less problematic when used to mean nonsense.
That's a very good description. He's discussing it with other people now, Rachel, and not allowing us to discuss it.
I've got to shut up now, haven't I?
There's dead people talking.
No, I've got to actually talk. I've got to say hello to my old school buddy, Christine Fossey. Hello, Christine. Now over to Bradford Dillman.
I see dead people.
Uncle Leigh.
Yes, dear.
Is this your Bradford Dillman? Did you
not know who Bradford Dillman is, darling?
No, but I did note with some interest that I think his obit got mixed up with Steve Grizzly Nesbitt's, and I'm a bit confused now.
It did. Yes, that was that naughty Eric person again.
I'm going to hand Bradford to you.
That's very nice of you. Thank you. No, I don't want him. He's dead. He was. Bradford Dillman was one of those character actors who never actually made it into the full glory of fame and celebrity. He was always a working actor who buffeted around below the ceiling of infamy and notoriety. But he did have a few breaks, like he did appear in Eugene O'Neill's Long Day's Journey into Night, which
that's a good one.
Yeah. It starred Frederick March, but he was the bloke in the background. And he made all sorts of things, and everybody knows him. If you go on your computer now, just put in Bradford Dillman, Dillman. As soon as you see his picture, you'll know exactly who he is. He was gorgeous.
I'm worrying.
I'm doing it now.
Are you?
Yeah. All right, I'll do it. Well.
Oh, my word, yes. Goodness.
See, that's it. Everybody, just do it now. Just Google Bradford Dillman, and you'll know exactly who we're talking about.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Have you done it?
No.
Oh, he studied at the Actors Studio. That's a renowned place of scholarliness.
He was there. He was there with Marlon Brando and everybody. He just never had that. He was as good looking as Marlon Brando and not as fat. And
Leigh, was he from the UK?
Bradford Dillman, or?
Yeah, Bradford Dillman.
No.
I don't think so. It's a very interesting question, though. I will find the answer.
No, he was born in San Francisco.
See, so he was a hippie as well.
Yeah.
Ah, poor old Bradford.
Poor Bradford. God love you, Bradford.
Do you know what that naughty Steve Mann's trying to do?
What, Steve Mann trying to... Well,
he's writing messages in the vain hope that I will read them out incorrectly and say a naughty word on the radio.
Good on you, Steve.
Good on you, Steve.
Steve Grizzly Nisbet, then.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's gone as well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
We don't know who he is either.
No.
Well,
not really.
he's not exactly famous. He is famous in the reggae scene.
Yeah.
But the band Steel Pulse wasn't exactly a massive crossover success.
Oh, but they did very well. They became a bit of a cult. And I use that word advisory as well.
Yeah, it's a bit like Northern Soul. It's a similar vein, where it is popular in little pockets of areas, but for the most part, especially Manchester, Birmingham, places like that, they were like gods almost, these guys.
Well, that's right. That's probably where I knew him from, actually.
Yeah.
Because he was 69 when he died, and I still have this image of Steve Grizzly Nisbet being sort of a teenager, but being in the prime of life. And he's one of those people, he stamped his mark on a specific kind of entertainment and remained at the top of his profession in everybody's mind, although nobody had ever seen him for decades.
Yeah. I think that possibly applies to you. But if you went...
Not seen me for decades.
No, because if you went 10 miles in your world, or 12 kilometres further south from Birmingham, very few people had ever heard of him.
How do you know? How do you know that? You just made that up.
No, I
you
didn't.
never asked people in 12 miles south of Birmingham whether they knew who Grizzly Steve Nisbet was.
I'll give you the reverse example.
Go on then.
Steve Walsh.
Who's he?
The DJ and hugely successful singer.
Have you heard of him, Rachel?
No.
Nah.
See?
But
12 miles gone on the other side of Poprad.
If you were to say his name in the real clubland of London, he's a remembered hero to this day.
I know.
In his mum's kitchen. Yeah, they know.
No, because he was Mr. Soul Night Out in London. But it's how the UK works, which is my point. If you went and played Steve... In fact, I remember making a complete fool of myself in a nightclub just outside Manchester, where I was asked to do a PA one night. I put Steve Walsh on, I Found Loving, and everybody sat down. I thought, you morons. And they went, haven't you got the real version, Fatback Band? I went, no. I said, why would I bring that? That's no good.
So this whole club sat down because you were playing Steve Walsh.
Yeah, because they hadn't got a clue who he was.
And they didn't think, well, I don't know it, but I could do a little dance to this. So we get on to the next one.
Dave says, do what? That's a very in joke. How do they not know Steve Walsh? Because they live up north, Dave. They weren't part of the scene, man. Down south.
I'm not north.
No, he's...
I don't...
Yeah.
I live on the other side of the planet. I'm allowed to not know who he is.
Yeah, but he didn't get across the channel, you see.
Didn't get across anything by the sounds.
He did. He was...
That's a bit personal.
He was a big success. Great thing. Steve hasn't got a clue either.
Dead?
He died tragically decades ago. Accident.
I remember him, actually. I have communed with him through you at times.
You have?
I have. He was a very pleasant chap.
Yes.
From what I can see.
Yes. And he was just about making the big time. And Steve's dream was always to have, because he didn't come from a very affluent background, but he always wanted a white Rolls Royce.
Oh, wow. Did he get one?
So he bought the cheapest white Rolls Royce you've ever got on the planet. The back suspension was so shot. As he drove down the road, the back of the car would bounce up and down. It was so awful. But he did have his white Rolls Royce. Gillian Ayres has also died at the age of 88, who put paint on canvas.
Do you know who she is as well, Rachel?
I didn't know at all. But then before we went to air, I decided that I should really research some stuff. So I looked at her paintings, and I can't say that it's my cup of tea, but She clearly had some charisma. This spunky lady. She was sitting there doing an interview with a smoke in her hand and wafting around. And she enjoyed a good tale through the clouds of smoke. Was a quote I read somewhere.
Who's that young one with the funny teeth? Young girl one.
Tracy Emin.
That's the one.
She's not a young girl. She's like 57.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, right. But they remind me of each other, as it were.
Gillian Ayres actually was predominantly, like Rachel's just said, was predominantly about the use of colour and creating some really startlingly...
Is this going to go on for a while, and can I have a nap?
No, I've finished now, because I don't know who she is either. I just put it in because I couldn't find anybody else famous who was dead.
She was an abstract artist, and I had a quick look at her stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't really sort of get my head around a lot of abstract artists. I mean, my taste sort of moves toward the Jackson Pollocks, etc. But
there's that word again, Eric.
You naughty girl.
Yeah.
That was the P word.
It was.
But she did. It was a very startling colours, and she clearly was good at what she did. I wouldn't necessarily hang it on my wall, but she had a long and colourful career, and she, from what I read, she sounds like a colourful personality.
She was lovely, and she's dead.
Well, apparently, I'm showing my age now, as I think Tracy Emin's young. Well, to be honest, I haven't listened to Tracy Emin since that first dirty bed she brought out, and I went, I'm never listening to her ever again, so when she comes on the telly, I turn her off.
Tracy Emin really is quite. She's an artist that doesn't fit in very easily into the tradition of pictorial art, but she creates atmospheres and creates things.
No, actually, she's got something in common with me.
Yeah, well, we all know about your atmospheres, don't we?
No, because my favourite phrase. You know what my favourite phrase is for the radio? No.
Go on.
I don't know. You got so many.
I've got a great face for radio.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Right.
You enjoyed that one.
She's got great art for radio.
I was just pausing so the tumbleweed could go past.
That's it. It nearly knocked me over, so I just...
It really did. I had to jump out the way.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, dear. Hello to John Crane as well. Come to the madness, John. Mourners of Henry Vincent. And not to be intimidated, says the Metropolitan Police. If you're not familiar with the story, Mr. Vincent lost his life after he broke into a old age pensioner's house, threatened this senior citizen with a rather large screwdriver. The 78-year-old man turned the screwdriver around, stabbed the guy, and ultimately he died. And what's happened is his family, the dead burglar, have put floral tributes up to him opposite the house where he died. And there is a very polarised view as to what should happen, including certain people ripping the flowers down, certain people saying that's appalling, other people, suggesting all sorts of things. But the reality is that, somebody who is breaking the law loses their life, might be sad for the family, but you don't go and talk about it in front of the place where the incident took place, in my book.
It's a shrine to violence, and it's offensive.
Yeah.
The thing, I can see exactly where you're both coming from, but it's one of those things you see. Initially, I was 100% with you on this until I discovered that actually the shrine isn't outside the house where the incident took place.
It's not exactly outside the house, but it's pretty close.
It's opposite the house, yeah. And in a way, and now this might sound a bit controversial, but if you think about it, it isn't really. Did the people, the family members, show a certain amount of respect by going and creating their shrine across the road?
No.
From But why not? They have every right to mourn their lost member of the family. They have every right to.
But they shouldn't do it in plain view of somebody who's been the victim of a violent crime. That's just offensive.
Yes.
They should move it somewhere else. They should move it down where it's not visible by, to this poor fellow at his home or whoever it was who was attacked. They should move it so it's out of sight of that particular residence, because that is disrespectful to a person who has been the victim of a violent crime. It's just not on.
I can see exactly where you're coming from, but there is. You see, you've got to remember these people are described as Romanis, and they have certain traditions, certain things that they do. And because of the travelling lifestyle, they have roadside shrines to people, and they mark the place where the person died. You see it all the time on roadways, and it's that thing there. The police have said, quite rightly in my mind, that they have the right to create this shrine and that people shouldn't go across and damage it because A, they've got a right to do it, and B, that it's going to create a lot of stress and a lot of tension. The old chap who actually had his house broken into has moved away because of what are described as threats being made to him, and he's had to go away. So he's not actually there.
No, but even
no,
more
but
so.
That's the common denominator is what forced him out of his home. What forced the situation in the first place?
Yeah, I agree.
It was a crime against him, and that's not okay. If you have a religious or cultural reason for wanting to put a shrine somewhere, that's all very well and good. But what you have the right to do may not necessarily be the right thing to do.
Yeah, I see your point. Yeah, I do. It's just that thing. The police have said that they have a right to do it, and that
I don't agree with the police.
No, I don't know if I agree or not. Actually, I'm just trying to see it from that side of how people are allowed, what people are allowed to do. Should he, if he lives in the same town?
I mean, he shouldn't be in such a state that the poor guy's got to move out of where he lives because of a burglary. And,
I agree, yeah.
And secondly, and don't forget, I live in a country where putting floral shrines up to people is sadly, in most cases, a cultural typical thing of the church. And so therefore, I get that side of it. But the last thing I would do is, as some people have claimed, it's a good thing for to enable the children to grieve and all this sort of thing. I'm sorry, it's not. This guy attempted to burgle a property, used violence, and therefore a lot of his what I will call standard rights to me are out of the window.
I think the argument is rests there, where yes, should this man have broken into somebody's house carrying a screwdriver, wanting to rob it, probably knowing that the bloke was coming up to his 80s, and everything went wrong for him, and he ended up losing his life. He didn't only go there by himself. There was another, at least one person with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the crime. That was the crime, and he got his comeuppance. And in a way, this chap, the old chap, became a bit of a hero. Now, does that then telegraph itself across the street to what they consider to be a shrine? Normally that shrine would have been put directly against the wall of the house where the incident took place. In this case it didn't. That's the only thing. Are we telegraphing the horror of the crime and the mindlessness of the people who thought they would break into an old person's house and rob them at the equivalent to knife point? Or does that, when they no longer exist, are people allowed to continue their memory as they would in a traditional fashion? It's a really difficult one, but the police say yeah.
I get that, but I think he forgoes the right to have that because of the fact that how far he threatened this senior citizen is academic. The fact is, he threatened a senior citizen. Therefore, any cultural niceties of any calibre, he gives up at that point. The minute he put that screwdriver in his hand...
Why do his family? Why have his family got to give them up? That's the argument. Why have his family and friends...
Quite clearly, because...
They're not guilty.
No,
they don't have to give him up. It's clearly a matter of of geography at this point.
Yes.
But his rights were forfeit, of course.
Yes.
But and this person, we don't know to what degree he threatened this man, but the fact of the matter is, an elderly man felt threatened enough to try and fight back.
Yes, and subsequently he's had to move out. So there we go. We'll move on because another interesting. This is a really interesting debate. I've had some interesting debates with people via Messenger things on Facebook, and I don't know yet because we haven't got the final answer. The bottom line is Russia believes that the poor lady Yulia Skripal has been abducted by the UK, and this was something the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman told Sky News. And they're also very suspicious, apparently, of other statements from the young lady in question that have been released through the police at Scotland Yard. Now, I know there's a few bad people in the police, as there is in every walk of life, but there is no way on this planet they're going to make up stuff to issue... Sit still, Mr. Banks. To issue through Scotland Yard about Yulia Skripal. It's not going to happen. So, as much as she was a very nice young lady that was doing the interview, I think she's been a bit brainwashed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you hear my ghost door creaking?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. There must be a window open because it's blowing by. I've just been and shot it.
You shot it or shut it?
I'm going to shoot it if it makes a noise again, but at this moment I've only shut it. I have to tell you, we've just had a message come in, an urgent message saying that Facebook isn't working.
It's working again now.
It's working again now. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Whoever you were.
I had several moments about... Well, actually, I'm very proud of that, then.
Of what? That you've ended it?
Well... A, that I've mended it, but it wasn't us actually, it was Facebook. And B, you two didn't notice that Facebook had gone off and I was frantically scrabbling around with keyboards and mouses.
I don't notice when Facebook goes off because I'm never on it when we do this. I'm focused on what I'm doing. I'm very diligent.
But I was still talking to you whilst reconnecting to Facebook for about 2 minutes.
Oh, Rachel, he's off about the fact he's multitasking now.
I know, but he's also off about the MacGyver thing again, which is hilarious.
I know. Anyway, further to the very interesting interview from said Russian lady, the independent chemical weapons scientists, these are the people at the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, they've actually now conclusively said that the evil stuff that was got... I know it's... Ian, I know it's working now. I can see that. I'm getting beaten up from all sides today. Anyway.
All right, Ian. We know it's all right.
There was I trying to be a professional newsreader for once in my life, which is never going to happen again. Anyway, they've decided that this was the real McCoy after their test. So the nerve agent was considered to be high purity, with complete absence of contaminants, which normally indicates it's from one particular source. They haven't actually said that yet, but it's getting very, very, very close.
It's very curious the way this whole thing is going. Who's actually done it? Who's complicit in this? And I think it is time that Britain, which is supposed to be the voice of freedom and expression, should come clean and just say, yes, we did it, or say, no, we didn't. They shouldn't be, shouldn't be there screaming at us and we're screaming back at him. This is all going towards what we are now facing in Syria. It's all focused on that, and Britain is playing exactly the same game, and I don't think anybody's playing this game very well at all.
Well, the Brits have said the they can't say that it's definitely Russia.
But they have done.
But they are saying it's conclusive evidence. And that's a bit of political, I nearly said a naughty word, stuff to get you off the hook in case you screwed up.
That's right. Right, yeah.
And what everybody's missing is nobody has really pushed it to the ultimate, it was you that authorised this to be done. No. Until such time as phase one. Phase one is the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, the OPCW. The first thing they've come out with is it is definitely this version of said nerve agents.
Yeah. Well, why don't they say where it's come from?
Well, because that will take a longer time.
Dad, this thing, it is known. People know what's gone on. We're playing political games, and really, when you've had your first chemical attack on British soil, real proper, like this could have killed lots and lots of people.
Yes.
Not tens, it could have killed 20, 30, 40, 100 people. Mm-hmm. That is chemical attack on our ground, and we are messing about.
I will say the same thing again. We're sitting on I think the British government, because it's not a government I can vote for anymore. I suppose I could technically, but I don't. Either way, the fact is they're not going to say 100%, because what the Kremlin has been saying is we want the OPCW to make the decision. Yeah. Now, first of all, today they've made one decision. They could have possibly made another one, but for the fact that around about now, everybody's over in the United Nations talking about Syria, and whichever way it goes, Russia wouldn't want that to get swept under the carpet if it proves it wasn't them. So you've got so many factors in at the moment, and the other interesting thing with all this toing and froing between the two groups, especially America and Russia, there was this, I'm going to do everything. No, you're not. I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do that. You do that. I'm going to stick some bombs on that one. You do that. And all of a sudden, last night, things started to calm down a little bit. And then Russia said, we'll have a UN thing then. And everybody went, yep, okay. It's...
And really, was it Mr. Trumpington who saved those circumstances? Was it him? He is a bizarre, strange man.
No. It was Russia that called for the UN meeting today.
No, yes, but was it because of what Trumpington did?
I thought you were a wordsmith.
What's wrong with that?
You said no, yes.
No, yes. Oh, yes, no.
No.
No, ladies and gentlemen. No, yes. No, listen, though. He sent out a thing, didn't he? A tweet in the early hours of the morning saying, we're coming to get you, Russia. Yeah. We're going to wipe you out. You will all die. Yes. Everyone will die. And then immediately, a few hours later, sent another saying, well, we're not actually going to blow you up properly yet, but we might do in a bit. And that is the point where everything changed. This strange thing, this strange power that this madman known as Mr. Trumpington has. And yet it's all quietened down. Is this man actually a genius?
I think he's a very cool negotiator, and that's probably why he's done what he's done in business. And but you and I both know one person who says, when your enemy is messing up, don't stop them. And I cleaned that up beautifully. And Mr. Trump does the same thing a lot. But what he does is he sows a seed of doubt or worry in the beginning. Then he backs away from it. Then the other person comes in and he goes, oh, okay, not to worry, let's talk about it now then. He's now got the upper hand in the negotiation.
So this is it. Is he a very clever man? Is he? Well, he is obviously a very clever man, isn't he?
Not daft, is he? He's made millions. The UK's been carrying out...
hang on a minute. I haven't said anything for about 15 minutes, so I thought I'd better...
Okay.
Do you know what's funny about Donald Trump?
What?
Nothing, but he
very good.
He was criticising Obama for giving away his game plan against Syria.
Mm-hmm.
after the chemical attack happened last time. He was criticising him and don't give away your game plan. Don't give away your game plan. Next thing on Twitter, this guy's ranting about blowing everybody to Kingdom Come. I was like,
but you see, that's proved my point. That he says, don't give away your game plan. So he gives one away that looks to be a game plan, when in reality, it's way, way, way away from the truth.
I know, but does that not show
he's a moron.
That he just knows which way the wind blows?
I think you could be right. We are 40 minutes into the programme and we haven't done a tenth of the stories yet, so we have to get on.
Are we doing the B word?
We are in a second, but that'll come towards the end. UK carries out a cyber attack on what's left of the Islamic State. The GCHQ director, Mr. Fleming, has admitted that they have been fighting back. And this was done in 2017 when Daesh, which is another not so nice word for the Islamic State self-appointed idiots, and they actually used the cyber channels of theirs to spread anti-trust about ISIS. Cool. What clever people. We're going to Australia now. Rachel, police officers wake from an induced coma.
Yeah. I wanted to include this story on the back of our discussion last week about having some respect for the police.
Good.
This is actually a really happy ending too. There were two police officers. One of them a constable. One of them a probational constable. 2 years' experience in the police force between them. Ran off into a burning house because they got a call about an emergency, a fire, and they were the first ones to respond. So they banged on the door, ran inside, got the nice man out, which was great. So residents safe. And fire came along and they put the fire out and everything was great. But because of smoke inhalation, these two officers were required to be intubated, and that's a precautionary measure. But in order to do that, you have to be placed into an induced coma.
Right.
They've now been woken up from their induced comas, and they're resting comfortably and doing very well. And you've got to take your hats off to them. These are two very young, very inexperienced police officers who just saw danger and ran towards it. And that always makes me very, very grateful. And I'm astonished how the police and the fireys and the ambos do all their jobs, because I run away when faced with danger. I flee, and they run towards it. And, good on them.
Absolutely. We're going to have to run on. Mark Zuckerberg has revealed that his personal data was amongst that which was acquired by Cambridge Analytica. And that ties in very well with Steve saying Facebook doesn't like you today. It's getting interrupted a bit. I'm not surprised with what I've been writing on their own pages and messaging with Steve. There's a lot from here on CNET and places like that, which was the easy place to see it, with Mark Zuckerberg saying he doesn't want fake, and that reckons that he's done very well to get rid of the fakeness from Facebook.
No, he hasn't. What a load of rubbish. Absolute rubbish. That I believe that this is purely a PR thing. And there he is, the little man, minuet of a man, who's just said, yeah, well, they took mine as well. Yeah, that's it. I'm lying for it. And that's supposed to make us all feel better. Look, it even happened to him. Yeah, I bet it didn't.
Well,
the day that he's speaking before this committee, and it pops up on all of our Facebook pages, this great big long blurb about this Cambridge Analytica, and this is how you can find out what's happening. I thought, that's interesting to pop up today of all days. That's funny. Why didn't that come up before the congressional hearing? Why didn't we know about this before? We knew something was dastardly for ages.
Well, anyway, very quickly, as you know, we have to comply with defamation laws and stuff like that, and the rights and wrongs of broadcasting. And I can categorically say, Mr. Zuckerberg, you're lying.
Oh, no!
Sue me if you want.
Yes.
I'll give you my address.
Oh. Right.
We got no money. You can sue us.
Yeah, whatever. The
What's
fact
he lying
is,
about? Make it clear. What's he lying about?
there are fake pieces of news that I have reported over 20 times, the same one. I've even given them facial recognition evidence that it's wrong. and they've just ignored it, and it stays there.
That's right. And I still get stopped putting bits of music on my pop music, I said the word pop, rock music aficionados, and I still get them taken off because this Zuckerberg says this spam. How can it be spam? It's supposed to be a site where you share.
Exactly. Apple has been ordered to pay $502 million to a company called Vernex XT. Now, I have to be very careful with this company because their way of appearing to make lots of money is issuing patent infringement cases against people, which tells me they're an ambulance chasing company, maybe, allegedly, rumoured. I don't know why companies like Apple don't actually all get together, Apple, Microsoft and all these other people, and go, look, lads, it wasn't really your idea. You put it in paperwork first. We had it first. You saw it. Maybe somebody told you about whatever, and you put the paperwork in. Here's 50 cents. Now go away and talk to the trains.
Well, how much was it? How many millions?
$502 million US.
They find that under the couch cushions, Apple.
I know they do, but they shouldn't let these people get away with it.
Well, that's true. You're paying people to be naughty, I guess.
You indeed. Very, very tragic story next, which is why I'm spluttering a bit, which happened in Spain. 30 kilos of rubbish was found in the body of a dead sperm whale.
Yeah.
I cannot
I was furious when I read
believe
this.
it.
I was furious. I really was. I was so
but
angry
do you know
when I
what?
read this.
Go on, you go angry first, Rach.
Rubbish found it inside anything ever in the ocean. But this in particular is just frightening because of the sheer volume of it. And once these sort of bits of plastic, people think, oh, that's just a little bit of plastic. That doesn't matter. I'll chuck that wherever. But once it gets inside an animal like a whale, for example, who would use krill and so forth to eat, so they open their mouths and scoop things up in the ocean, and they are massive, massive, massive animals. So bit by bit, it gets lodged in their intestines, and then it just ruptures. Yes. But what you have the danger of is that you've got baby whales swimming next to their mummies in pods. They swim in pods. Yeah. So you've got baby whales now being killed, and this happens all over the world. Now in Australia, the plastic shopping bags that they give you your stuff in, the horrible polythene ones, they in most states, and not in my state, and I'm furious about it, they have been completely obliterated. They don't exist anymore. You have to take reusable bio-friendly bags with you that don't get thrown out. But, just the six-pack, your six-pack of beer, that plastic there, that goes... It does such damage to marine life. And what is it doing? People say, there's no such thing as climate change and blah, blah, blah. There is, because we're destroying our planet bit by bit, and this is just one horrendous example.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you what infuriated me, Rachel, which is, A, I was annoyed about the story in the first place, but B, then numpties on social media said, you should make the manufacturers pay fines for all this for the dead animals and done. No. Mm-mm. Who threw the rubbish away indiscriminately before?
It starts with them and it finishes with us. We are all responsible. We all here.
Well, yeah, but surely this is the same as smoking. We know that smoking kills people. There's no doubt about it. It does, but we won't stop manufacturers manufacturing cigarettes or tobacco. Mm-hmm. We won't do it because of the financial implications of it.
Cars kill people as well.
Cars kill people. Everything. Alcohol kills people. Mm-hmm. Food contaminants kill people. And what we need to do is look at the very fabric of our society and say, look, you as people who create packaging need to be aware of what you're doing and change it. I don't believe for a second charging you 5p for a plastic bag at a supermarket has made any difference to this at all. People say it, but I still...
Oh, no, I can tell you it has, Leigh. I know that for a fact. And the funny thing is, about 20k from where I live, the factory's there, but it's a considerably smaller operation now. Most of the the vast majority of plastic bags that were imported into the UK at one point came from Slovakia. And the factory it was a British company that set the factory up there. And I was talking to the MD not long ago, and his business has absolutely tumbled. And so much so. Go on.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, has he diversified, though? Has he moved into a different aspect to make money?
Yeah, he's gone into recyclable paper stuff and the stronger bags that don't break.
And so then everybody else could do the same, and that's how to save the world. Not charge 5p for a plastic bag and stick it up a whale because you don't know where to put it afterwards.
Well, Steve's
that's the thing is, we can all make a choice. We all every day can make a choice. Do you use one of those plastic bottles that you throw away, or do you buy a reusable bottle? Do you use your own shopping bag, or do you use if everybody? And people say, "Oh, what I do doesn't make a difference," but it does. If everybody made one little tiny change,
absolutely,
everybody made one little change, it would clean up some stuff in a big hurry. If we all did it a lot, it'd clean up more stuff in a big hurry.
Yeah, well, our regular correspondent, Steve, says, I bet those who say humans can't damage the environment will say this is fake news. And he adds, it has made a difference to him. I've been taking reusable bags to the shops for years, and I agree with you, man. I really do. And the funny thing is, and this has nothing to do with any logical sense with this, do you know why I can't use those horrible bags, the placky ones? They annoy me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Because they end up everywhere, and I end up having to throw them away.
Well, that's the thing. That's what happens, isn't it? And you can't, I think what Rachel said is right. Everybody, why doesn't the government give us all a free shopping bag? One that's made out of...
No.
Yeah.
No.
Why?
Because you should pay. Other than that, you carry the stuff in your arms. It's not down to it's not a nanny state to do it.
For God's sake.
You got a suitcase, haven't you?
You can't take a suitcase to the supermarket and think you're robbing it.
It's
you know what you can take. You know what you can take, and I do. I used to when we lived at our old place and we had the markets over the road. One of those that I call them the granny trolleys.
Yeah.
And just a little thing on wheels. And I used to take mine all around the markets because none of the people in the market sold plastic bags.
It was because you were a bag lady.
You're a bag lady.
I was a bag lady, and now I'm an old cranky bag lady.
We've got less than 8 minutes to get through a dozen and one stories. This one I want to get in because it is ridiculous. Gateshead Council, that's up in the north of England in the UK, have been forced to deny being involved in secret stuff. Because somebody noticed an antenna on the top of a normal street light. Now, the ridiculous comments have ranged from having the aerial there will induce miscarriages in pregnant women,
right?
Cause insomnia, nosebleeds, and they could be killing birds or insects. You complete and utter numpty. There's only one way that would happen, and that's if you change the laws of physics. Why people? It's like in the mid-90s, and Leigh will remember this for sure. There was massive newspaper headlines everywhere. We're all going to die of cancer because of mobile phone towers.
Well, actually, I did stories on that and also on cancer clusters around power cables and the stanchions that hold power cables on. But they needed investigating. They needed
They didn't.
They did.
No, because if you think about it... No, can I tell you why?
Why?
All you had to do was go back to the 1930s, look at the transmitter sites that we used then, with 1,000 times more power being radiated, and go, has anybody died since they put that television mast on the top of Crystal Palace and put kilowatts of power out when the little mobile phone antenna's got a few watts? No, nobody died, so that's all right then.
How do you know nobody died because of it? Where's the proof of that now? I'm picking up. You are the master of fake news, Mr. Wiltsher.
Oh, no, I just understand physics. And we got to try and squeeze this in somewhere. Anyway, look, guys, if you see this story from Gateshead, it's a load of old twaddle written by a complete and utter numpty who hasn't obviously gone to school. I think he's the same as that bloke in the Daily Mail, who I commented on the other day, who probably thinks a smartphone is one that remembers numbers.
I think a smartphone is one that you can actually use to make a phone call.
Well, that's very true these days. Cliff Richard is taking the BBC to court over the way his house was shown on television when South Yorkshire police raided it. The media correspondents have had an absolute field day with this one, in for talking head commentaries, but it's cost a fortune. Because if it is that Cliff wins this, it has ramifications not just for television and radio broadcasters, it also has ramifications for newspapers, magazines, every other, including, under the new law, anybody doing this from England on the internet.
Yeah,
the law in the court covers all of it with the new legislation. And if he wins and they say it was a bad thing to do, that's a tricky one.
It is, and it's very sad. I've got to err on the side of the fact that it really the BBC had every right to be there when this was happening and did exactly what the police had asked them to do. The police invited them along. They didn't go and doorstep it. They were invited. And when a crime has been committed, or there is a suspected crime, then the police investigate, and so do the press. And when you have this background, this strange background about your sexuality, your marital status and all this thing, and then all of a sudden you're one of the most famous people in the world and this happens, it is without a doubt in the public interest.
It'll be interesting to see how the court case comes out. We're going to give the last 2 minutes, because we're there, to Rachel, who apparently has got a story about profanities she mentioned earlier.
Oh, yes, I've got a view on it. I've got a view on
swearing. Oh, a view. We'll let Rachel have the view.
Yes.
My view is the following. If you are governed by bodies such as Ofcom, or in Australia it's ACMA, or whoever it is, then if you cannot express yourself as a broadcaster without using profanity, you have no business being a broadcaster. Mm-hmm. You are required to follow the rules. If you can't do that, go and do it somewhere else. Mm-hmm. I've got nothing against people who make their own radio content that is free for all on the internet and not governed by anything. If they want to do it with cursing, that's up to them. It's not my cup of tea. I don't do it. But if you are governed by a body, don't do it. It is naughty and it is against the law.
Well, actually, as Dave quite rightly pointed out in the legislation from Ofcom, after the watershed, you can get away with that particular word. Yeah. The one that Mr. Banks said. Now, I can never, ever remember, and I'm digging deep now. I don't think I've ever used that word either intentionally or unintentionally on a broadcast anywhere, because I wouldn't.
No.
I mean,
no, just don't do it. Don't even skate. Never mind watershed. That's a whole lot of people trying to cover their backsides. Watershed, schmortershed. Don't skate around it. Just stay away from it. The English language is wonderful. There are so many words you could be using other than those. So go choose one.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at Mark Zuckerberg's wonderful Facebook. That is a repository for all the 4-letter words that anybody can think of.
It's true. Very
and
true.
It's outrageous. It is destroying the English language.
Yeah, it absolutely.
And you know what? Television are allowed to do it now. They are full of it. If you really want to swear on air, go work in television.
Yeah, exactly. I've got to. Oh God, I'm in trouble. I've got to say hello to Lukash. So hello, Lukash. Before we go, Rachel, what are you doing?
Working.
Weekend.
Working tomorrow morning.
Oh, how horrific! Leigh,
I know, it's okay.
I have no idea. Oh, I know what I'm doing, but I can't share it. No, it's a secret. The ladies and gentlemen, the boys and girls, and everybody else who reads the ConsumerWatchFoundation.com will find out what I'm doing next week.
Ooh, get you. There's no stopping him, is there? Sorry we didn't have more time for the debate, but we got sort of debating other things, and that kind of took the whole thing away from us. Anyway, thank you very much. Say goodbye, Rach.
Goodbye, Rach.
Sooty.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
That was Postcard from Poprad on Radio Tatras International for another week, and wherever else you happen to listen to it as well. Come back next week. That'll be 6 days, 23 hours time, won't it? 6 days, 23 hours. Yeah, you got to be back in 6 days, 23 hours time, and we can do it all again. Yeah, that's right. God, it took me ages to work that out. See you soon. Bye.
RTI,